So I saw where a reporter at ESPN, Jeremy Fowler, had a 12-source story on Jalen Hurts. And the overriding theme was, he's patting the ball. He's not doing what the coaches want. He's reluctant to change. And part of me thinks, well, he's 5'11 and a half, 6 feet tall. There are things he may not see. You always hear that you got to coach what's available. Nick, certain coaches say, coach the player the way you want him to be, not necessarily what he is. You tell me with Jalen Hurts, when you see a story and people are like, it's hard to coach, reticent to change, kind of does his own things, he'll pat the ball, he drives the coaches crazy. Is what Jalen Hurts is really saying is, guys, I'm not comfortable with what you want me to be. I'm comfortable with what I am.
Well, I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback, but the timing of that story that came out right after league meetings is when everybody's together, everybody's, got cocktail hour together. And so the stories, it's what people are saying. And so I would say for Jalen Hurts, obviously he's a great quarterback, but there is some talk about questioning, coachability, humility. And I think coachability and humility are two things that play really well in the locker room. Jalen Hurts is a well-respected guy in the locker room. But ultimately, excellence on the field is what people are going to respect the most, coaches and players. And so I think that this has been a little bit of an attack on him. And if I'm him and I want to unite the locker room, I just give off that vibe of like, hey, I know I've accomplished so much in my career, but I'm still going to take kind of a more coachable approach. And then for wide receivers, when you have disgruntled wide receivers year after year after year, it's not great for a locker room. So I don't know. I'm a believer in the quarterback as a whole, but I do believe that when you have the wide receiver group feeling like they're not a part of it and they got to beg for success, it's a bad place to be as an offense.
Okay. First of all, there has been exactly one unhappy wide receiver in this entire situation, and that's A.J. Brown. All right? So let's be clear, it's just A.J. Brown. Have you heard a single complaint from Devonta Smith? No. And A.J. Brown, with the Philadelphia Eagles, has been to multiple Super Bowls. He's caught touchdowns in Super Bowls. He is a literal Super Bowl champion because of the Philadelphia Eagles. Devonta Smith now has one of the most iconic catches in Eagles history. All right? The dagger. What are we even talking about right now? What is this conversation? And again, year after year, it's over 1,000 receiving yards, top in the NFL in receptions and touchdowns. The narrative we're trying to invent here is just absurd. It really is. It's genuinely absurd. They were begging to get the ball? Jalen Hurts was feeding A.J. Brown the ball in the playoff game during the wild card round against the 49ers, and he dropped it. What did he have? Like 3 or 4 drops that game? I don't understand. Oh, he was so unhappy in 2024. That's why on 4th down, on the opening drive of the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts throws him a perfect pass. That's what begging to be involved in the game plan looks like? Why do we keep making things up? I don't understand. And it's really funny because I don't recall A.J. Brown being this unhappy in 2022 or 2023. I don't remember that at all. And then when they played an excellent brand of football, where they were able to run the ball constantly, win a ton of games, and win the Super Bowl, suddenly he's unhappy. Huh? And now the idea, what's so irritating about this whole coachability and humility angle, I talked about this over the weekend. But I want to emphasize it again because this take is just so absurd and so wrong. He drives coaches crazy. He drove Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore crazy? That's not what was stated. In fact, the article said that he gravitated toward hard coaching. And that when he was given solutions, when he worked well with Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen, they were able to meet and make things happen. Hence why they got to Super Bowls. That's literally what the article says. The article says he gravitated toward the hard coaching of Nick Saban and others. So then you want to claim he has coachability problems? No. He has coachability problems when the coaches are bad. That's not Jalen Hurts' fault. I've got news for you. You don't listen to bad coaches. You don't listen to coaches who tell you the wrong thing. I also had problems when I was coached by people who didn't know what they were doing. And I caused problems. I'm not saying it was right. I'm not saying it was smart. But I went at it with some coaches. The coaches who knew what they were doing and commanded respect. You better believe I shut up, took a knee, and just nodded. I didn't even nod. You just don't move. You just listen. But the coaches who didn't know what they were talking about. Yeah, I kind of did my own thing. I knew more than them. I was like a teenager, and they were grown men. That's not my fault. They just weren't good coaches. I didn't have that problem with the coaches who actually knew, the coaches who were actually professionals, either professional coaches or former pros. I listened to everything they had to say. The other coaches? Maybe not as much. A lot of times it was like, what you're telling me is wrong, and I'm just going to ignore you. Because the guy who's actually my coach says otherwise. So now we're like, oh, he pats the ball. Laughter, what? I mean, now we're just looking for anything we can possibly say. And now we're lying about his height. He's 5 feet 11 inches? He's 6 feet 1 inch? What are we saying? He's 6 feet 1 inch. That's his verified height from the NFL Combine. What are we inventing right now? Now we're just saying he's a height that he's not. I don't understand. And again, that he lacks humility. He literally willingly throws the ball less. He willingly does that. He willingly watched his passing stats drop in 2024. He willingly changed the way he played football in 2024 and 2025. He was more strategic about not turning the ball over, etc., etc. He's the one who decides on the RPOs. He could keep the ball so much more. He could keep it and run. He could keep it and throw. Both things would technically help his stats and make him look more important to the Eagles' offense. Snorts, but he doesn't do that. He willingly hands the ball off. And I told you guys this before. WH. And he got into it with Chris Jones, when Chris Jones was talking trash, and he said, we won the game. And you want to talk about humility? Are you serious? That response he had is so telling for so many different reasons because he said, we won the game. He didn't say, what did I do to you the last time we played? When I broke Super Bowl records and won the MVP. He didn't say I. He didn't say that. He didn't reference himself. If he had referenced that, that would be a lack of humility. And I don't even want to say that would necessarily be a bad thing because someone's talking trash to you. So it's not like he would just randomly say that. I could even defend that statement. But if we're talking about a humility spectrum, yeah, it would technically be on the other side. But he said, we won the game. And you want to talk about him lacking humility and coachability? Are we serious? Jalen Hurts also made the throw of that game to Devonta Smith. So yeah, he only threw for like 100-something yards, and yet it was all-out pressure on Jalen. He's getting crushed. He gets that throw off and hits Devonta. It was a game-saving throw. Game-saving throw. Last time I saw Patrick Mahomes try to make a throw like that, he got drilled, fumbled the ball, and got crushed. That was the Super Bowl. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. We can point out things that Jalen Hurts needs to work on. Jalen Hurts needs to be a better quarterback. Jalen Hurts has room for improvement without a shaw. Doubt of a doubt. But now we're questioning his humility and coachability. It's just wrong. It really is. It's just wrong. And you say, oh well, they're unhappy because in 2024. You realize what's so insane about all of this? In 2024, A.J. Brown only played 13 games, okay? He missed 4 games. And still had 1,079 yards. He was top 14 in the league, and 7 touchdowns. So when you do the math, he would have been like top 5, top 3 in touchdowns and yards. And yet he still wasn't happy. And it's the same thing with Devonta Smith. Devonta missed a bunch of games as well. He only played 13 games. He had 833 yards and 8 touchdowns. So obviously if he played the full 17 games, he would have had over 1,000 yards, 10 plus touchdowns, or so. So he would have also been near the top, okay? Combine that with Saquon Barkley, who, if he had played all 17 games, would have broken the all-time rushing record. So we celebrate when receivers get over 1,000 yards. Okay, that's the accomplishment, blah blah blah. Heck, Justin Jefferson was celebrated as an elite top receiver in the NFL and had 1,500 yards that year, okay? 1,500 yards. So again, we have AJ and Devonta both in striking distance of that. Again, AJ Brown had 7 touchdowns in only 13 games, and Devonta had 8. So it's not hard to imagine they would have gotten to around 10 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had 10 touchdowns, okay? Amon-Ra St. Brown had 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. So this is all within range of all the receivers that everyone says, oh, they have great quarterbacks and great coaches and great success. But for whatever reason with the Eagles, it's not enough. Not to mention that's still combined with the fact that Saquon Barkley was going to break the rushing record. So not only did you have insane passing production or insane rushing production, literally historically great rushing production, Saquon Barkley had one of the most insane seasons on the ground in NFL history, and they still were able to get their receivers top numbers in the NFL, especially when looking at it through a 17-game season. Even when we don't look at it through 17 games. Again, AJ Brown was still 14th in receiving yards. Do you know how insane that is? Especially when you look and see AJ Brown at 13 games, and you see all these other players at 17 games, 17 games, 17 games, 17 games, 16 games, 15, 15, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. Oh, you need to play 17 games to get lots of stats. Makes sense, right? It's so absurd. People said that George Pickens. They said Dak Prescott was playing the best he's ever played. And George Pickens was an elite top receiver in the NFL. He had 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. Do you realize that in 2024, that's exactly what AJ Brown was on pace for if he had played the 17 games? It would have been 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. And again, right below that, Puka Nacua with 1,700 yards and the same number of touchdowns, and Jackson Smith-Njigba with 10 touchdowns. NS, 1,700 yards. A season that was so good for Jackson Smith-Njigba that it led him to get the most money of all time for wide receivers, and Puka to be crowned as a top 2 receiver in the NFL. And with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. So the season that AJ Brown was supposedly the most unhappy, reading a book on the sideline, and Jalen Hurts wasn't doing good enough, didn't have a top passing game in the NFL, if AJ Brown had simply played the full season, no matter what season we want to use as a reference, 2024, 2025, no one said George Pickens had a bad year. Nobody. And again, George Pickens, 1,400 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 1,000 yards, and people are like, oh. Dak Prescott's playing the best football he's ever played, and George Pickens is so great. He's going to command a top of the NFL contract. And again, he played 17 games. And Puka Nacua played 16, Jackson Smith-Njigba 17, Amon-Ra St. Brown 17, Zay Flowers 17. And I've got news for you. Especially in 2024, those games actually mattered. Did the Cowboys make the playoffs? No. Did the Lions make the playoffs? No. That's weird. Did Puka Nacua get to play in the Super Bowl? No. Oh, my head's starting to hurt trying to make sense of all this. How does this make sense? George Pickens has a great season, puts up 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, and it's unbelievable. Dak Prescott, unbelievable quarterback. Even Shanahan getting all this credit. Jalen Hurts has a receiver, AJ Brown. He act too. Ally has 2 receivers that he puts on pace to have 1,200, 1,400, 1,500 yards, 10-plus touchdowns each. And yet he's not a good quarterback. And he also still has to balance the fact that he has a running back who was going to break the rushing record. So he was going to run an offense and get the ball to everyone involved. He was going to have his receivers be top in the NFL by any season metric, and a running back who was historically great. Jalen Hurts was tasked with balancing and running that offense. And yet somehow it's not good. And the receivers are unhappy because they want 1,900 yards? I don't understand. So 1,400 yards is great, but it's also not great. Or it's okay to be Jamar Chase. Come on, man, you're making me look bad right now. have 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, and not make the playoffs in 2024. You guys do see how this doesn't really make sense, right? Like, we're clear about that. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Jalen Hurts and this conversation that truly never ends? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. Some of you agree with me, some disagree. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some debates, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you be a part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're LLY excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.